Is SoundCloud worth it for musicians in 2025? This is going to be a bit of a raw, unedited style video, kind of like a fireside chat style video. I'm just going to talk casually as if me and you were hanging out. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I'm going to be blunt because when it comes to SoundCloud, the biggest thing for me is it worth it or not per se, but really is it worth the money? To use a quick comparison, if you look at DistroKid, it's $23 a year for unlimited uploads, and your songs get put on Spotify, Rdio, Apple Music, Amazon Music, every platform out there, right? It gets put on TikTok for people to potentially use it. It gets put on Instagram, right? It gets put on every platform out there. And if you think about it, $23 a year for unlimited uploads, pretty good, right? Now, I do suggest, as most of you know, when it comes to DistroKid, I do have the Musicians Plus account, which allows you to have a custom label name. And that custom label name is about $40 a year. So a bit more expensive, but still only $40 a year. When it comes to SoundCloud, you're looking at about $8 a month or about $100 a year if you want to pay the yearly fee, pay like basically one lump sum. A lot of things have this. And the extra things, I'm going to be honest, get a bit tricky for me if I look at the pure financials. Now, I'm not saying SoundCloud is bad, but it is interesting that with the DistroKid, like you were talking about, like the basic memberships or whatever, I can either spend $23 a year to have my music on every platform, Spotify, Audio, Deezer, like I said a bunch of times, and also make money from that, right? I can post it on DistroKid, they get released to a bunch of different stores, and they make money when people download and stream my music. With SoundCloud, you don't really make money. Now, yes, I know SoundCloud does have the monetization program and platform. I've never used it, and if you want me to be honest, I don't think it's worth it, right? I don't think it's worth it when it comes to SoundCloud to monetize your tracks. I think SoundCloud, the way people approach SoundCloud and use SoundCloud is to just use it normally. And I think if anything, if you try to monetize it where, like, say, someone has to have that Go account or whatever in order to listen to your music, I feel like it's going to hold people back from potentially listening to your music, right? And I think the point of SoundCloud, I want to say, is that it really was a first big platform, in my opinion, where indie underground artists of every genre, hip-hop, EDM, I know is a big thing with SoundCloud, but hip-hop as well, pretty much any genre could post their music and anyone could listen to it, right? It was a very effective hosting site, if I'd even call it like that, where back in the day, uploading tracks was kind of difficult given bandwidth and all this kind of stuff. And SoundCloud was really the first. And I think regardless of who you are, we will all agree that SoundCloud is always going to have an important place in some way, shape, and form when it comes to music because there's really no other platform like it that you can just upload a song, quickly listen to songs. Like the way SoundCloud works, it is in kind of its own category, in my opinion. It really is. The tricky thing for me is if you are a musician and you're really trying to get your music out there, the way I'm going to approach this is saying this. I think back in the day, you kind of had to upload on SoundCloud, right? You kind of had to have a SoundCloud account. Let's just be honest. You really kind of had to. Now, though, I feel like it's not as necessary. I'm going to be blunt. That being said, might as well say this, as I know I briefly talked about the financials, if, let's say, money isn't an issue, or let's say you're like, hey, I'm just trying to get my music anywhere, $100 for the entire year, or like $8 a month, isn't insane. I mean, one drink at the bar here in LA is $8. They're actually usually more expensive, right? That's like probably your cheapest beer, like Bud Light or something. So from that perspective, even though, yeah, it's kind of interesting that SoundCloud is more than, SoundCloud is almost like 4 times the price of DistroKid, and you're not making money. DistroKid is 4 times less the price, and you are making money from your tracks, right? So with that kind of perspective, it's like, okay, is SoundCloud worth it? But at the end of the day, it's like, it's not that much money if you think of it from that regard. Then again, I know what it's like to be a starving artist, and I remember that $8 a month, I remember when I was starting out, was actually sometimes a bit tricky, where I was pinching pennies that tightly. So that's where the financials really kind of come a bit tricky. But one thing I will say is this, even ignoring, like, say, the financial aspect, like, say somehow you got a free membership to SoundCloud, part of me does say, why not use it? It doesn't hurt. Then again, I have to be blunt, that when I look at my growth as an artist, the biggest platforms for me have been things like YouTube, of course, releasing on DistroKid, of course. And I'm, especially because you release it on one place and it goes everywhere else. TikTok TikTok, if anything, has probably been the biggest one for me personally. I'm just talking personal example. People using my tracks on Instagram, all this kind of stuff. I feel like these kind of platforms are just the ones that I've noticed have had the biggest growth for me. And I gotta be honest, I feel like that I haven't really had any song. Again, this is just my personal thing. Pop off, so to speak, on SoundCloud. Now, granted, there may be a lot of artists watching this video right now being like, hey, Mark, I disagree with you. I posted one song on SoundCloud, it went viral, and boom, boom, boom. I think the tricky thing about SoundCloud is you do have your feed page, and you have people reposting, but if I look at like the algorithms or the SEO, Spotify is very good about linking. If you like this song, you might like this song. Or YouTube's really good about like, hey, if you were searching deep house music, you're going to find all these deep house songs. All these platforms have really good algorithms. And I'm not saying Spotify doesn't, but like I said, Spotify is in its own unique category where, at least for me, discovering new music on SoundCloud, I think is harder than almost every other platform. At least for me, at least the way I view SoundCloud, right? And I think that's why when it comes to posting music, in my experience, when I've released songs on SoundCloud, I haven't really noticed any big ROI. Like, I've noticed people being like, hey, like, we listened to your Spotify, now we're going to follow you. I've had people hit me up saying, this is how I found you. I don't think I've ever had anyone hit me up saying, hey, man, I found your song on SoundCloud, and as a result, now I'm following you. Or I've never gotten DJ gigs as a result of SoundCloud, right? I think that's where things just get a little tricky and just get a little technical when it comes to SoundCloud. I'm just going to be honest. Now, here's the thing. I'm not trying to bash SoundCloud, and I'll make that clear. I'm not saying SoundCloud is bad, and if anything, I'll be honest. I think if you have the money and it's not an issue, why not? Like you could look at it like that. Like, why not? You never know. But there's been a lot of times where, for me, I've forgotten to post on SoundCloud. There's been a lot of times where I don't check my SoundCloud for a week or 2 weeks, and I check it, I'm like, all right. Like, I think if anything, I have the least amount of plays, views, streams, all those metrics on SoundCloud compared to any other platform. And I know right now I feel like it does probably seem like I'm bashing SoundCloud pretty hard. It probably seems like I'm trying to beat SoundCloud down, and I'm not trying to make it seem like that. I just want to be honest from my personal perspective. Remember, this is just one person's perspective, and although I do know a lot about music distribution, and although I do a lot of these videos, it is just one person's opinion, right? Just one person's opinion, one artist's opinion. Because I think at the end of the day, you're way better off having having it than not. Again, I look at SoundCloud as a why not. If you have the money, why not? But do I think you're going to get a crazy ROI? Do I think you're going to get a crazy return on your investment of spending that money to have a SoundCloud account, posting your songs? I personally don't think so. Especially when you compare it to, like, say, CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid, all these independent music distributors, which are cheaper than SoundCloud, keep in mind. And I think the main reason why they are, because you may be wondering, like, wait a minute, how is DistroKid like 4 times less than SoundCloud when I'm making money from DistroKid and not making money from SoundCloud? I think it comes down to hosting, because SoundCloud hosts everything on their platform. DistroKid is more of think of like UPS, where they take your song and send it out, and Spotify hosts it, RDO hosts it, Deezer hosts it. And I think that's the main reason why. That DistroKid is more of the person that sends out the package, then Spotify is one that holds on to that package and has to pay for the packaging fee to hold on to it, if that makes sense. Or I know that's a good analogy, but I think that's probably the best one I can use. SoundCloud is kind of like a one-size-fits-all. You put your song on there, and they have to somehow deal with the bandwidth and users using their platform and all this kind of stuff. I think that's why, but at the end of the day, I do have to stress this point that I think, well, there can be some advantages to SoundCloud, and I think there could be, and I'm still using it. I was going to say that in 2025, I'm still using it. I think you are going to have a way better return on your investment. I think your music's going to do a lot better when it comes to being released on other platforms.